Hello, America, and welcome back to another episode of To Hear Me Tell It, the life and times of Jerry Daniels. When you've had your daily dose of today's craziness, dealing with all them Karens out there, ride shotgun with old JD as he goes back and recounts the life and times of growing up in the South during the 60s and 70s. I believe we were called baby boomers. Stories that you will say, yep, I done that, but I ain't gonna tell my kids. And I ain't never told my spouse. But whatever the truth be, it will be this, to hear me tell it.
Well, good morning, folks, and welcome to another episode of To Hear Me Tell It. I want to start by saying thank you, like, and subscribe. Now, if it's got the podcast element and it's got the YouTube element. So if you're a podcaster and this is what you do, subscribe to it, like it, share it. And if you're a YouTube type person, by all means, subscribe to my YouTube channel, like it, and share it. So let me preface by saying two things. One is, again, thank you for those who listen and watch. I really appreciate it. And number two is last week, I went ahead and put on my YouTube channel, I didn't do the podcast part, but I did a cooking video. It was about 11, 12 minutes long, about me making I call it the breakfast bundt cake delight, aka a breakfast casserole made in a bundt cake pan. And I saw this video online of this woman making some kind of Mexican thing, and I thought, shit, I can make a damn breakfast casserole and doctor it up. Anyway, so I did it. I've made it a couple of times, shared it with folks, and they go, "Oh man, you got to tell me how you made it." Well, then finally I thought, well, why don't I do a video? So I did a video, and obviously I probably did it all wrong because it was long, and I don't do that speed up stuff, and it come out to be 12 minutes long, and I don't think anybody's watched it the whole 12 minutes, and I'm okay with that, but I did it, and I had lots of leftovers, and I ate it again this morning, and John Brown love it, and my wife had some more again this morning, and John Brown love it. All right. Right here, guys, I'm going to do a little commercial break. And I'm going to put a plug in for a company that's local here in Jasper. And it's about a company called Power Solutions Unlimited, owned and operated by a very nice man. His name's Scott Fowler. Scott and his family own this business. They've been in business for quite a while. And Laura and I have purchased not one, but two installed home Generac, fully automated standby generators in case of emergency. So we live in the mountains of North Georgia, and you can lose power up here a lot. But we'll tell you a quick story. You know, the storm that I was talking about a while ago, that it came and went, and we were spared, thank goodness. But our generator is programmed to start every Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, runs for 10 minutes, does like a diagnostic, sends me a text message, sends me emails, sends a report back to the company, and everything gets checked and make sure everything's right. So the storm is approaching, and last Saturday it runs its normal test cycle every Saturday morning, and it doesn't get through it. It shuts off, and I get an email saying fault. And it's told me to check the fuel supply system, but it says your generator will not run until the fault has been cleared. I don't know how to clear the fault. So anyway, I thought, well, ain't this a howdy do? We got a damn ice storm predicted to be coming, and my generator, which is under warranty, but my generator had just failed. It's the first time it's ever had a problem, ever. And I follow the prompt on the email that I got, and I click on it, and it basically sends an email to their office. And it's Saturday. It's Saturday afternoon. And I'm thinking, ain't nobody going to get it. Nobody's going to get this message. So I did what the email prompted me to do. And we're local, and I know Scott. Scott's a great guy. Good family man. I like Scott a lot. And he and I share very similar interests. And he's a patriot. So I shoot Scott. I hate to do this on a Saturday, but I shoot Scott a text message. I said, "Hey, Scott." And I copied a screenshot, and I sent it to him. I said, our generator just ran its weekly diagnostic test, and it faulted out. This is his only reply. I'm on my way. It's Saturday, and it ain't good weather. And the only reply that Scott the owner and operator, the owner, not one of his technicians, not one of his field guys, the owner of the company for PSU, his only response is, I'm on my way. Scott came to the house, and I meet him over there by the generator, and he looks at it, and he goes, you must have had a little air pocket in your line. This is common. Let me show you what to do if it happens again. He gives me the instructions on the keypad panel, what to do. I said, well, damn, Scott. I said, that's amazing. You came like that. He goes, and he smiles. He's always smiling. He goes, is that good customer service or what? I said, it's phenomenal customer service. He goes, I do it for anybody. He goes, I'm just glad you like my business. I said, this is our second generator. We you've been great, but you're a good man. This is great customer service. He goes, yeah. So let me give you a dozen eggs. He goes, no, I don't eat breakfast. I said, okay. And then he was gone. But I just want to put a plug out. So Scott Fowler, the owner and operator of Power Solutions Unlimited, PSU. I know ain't many folks going to watch my podcast that are from this area. But if you know of anybody who ever needs a quality, first of all, it's a great product, but the customer service is bar none. From the install to the regular annual service, they take care of us. Scott Fowler, you're a good man, and Laura and I really appreciate you, brother. Thank you. So, going to knock a couple things out here, and then I'm going to talk about one thing in particular. I'm going to purposely avoid politics. I could talk about the crap that's going on, but I'm not. I'm not going to let that get a hold of me. Son, is it cold or what? I'm actually going to record this today, but I think I'll publish it tomorrow. So today is the 27th of January, and man, it is cold as blazing. No, that's hot as blazing Jimmy's. It's cold, colder than a well digger's ice in December. How about that? Or cold enough to freeze the brass off, the balls off the brass monkey, or colder than a well digger's ice in December, or colder than a witch's titty in a brass bra. All of those are cold. It's cold. I can tell you that right now. Woke up this morning, and it was 12 degrees this morning. It was 8 degrees in South Berwick, Maine, and it was 19 degrees this morning in Taylor County. So, and I think it was 11 degrees or something like that in Chattanooga. All I can say is it's cold. It was so cold, the chickens would not even come out of the coop. Now, usually when it's cold, they'll come out because that's where the food is. But the door had opened up, and when I got up this morning, I went outside and to check my little remote thermostat reader, whatever, and it was 31 degrees inside the coop with all shut doors and the heater going, and it was 12 degrees outside. So I'm pretty happy with that. It's quite the spread there. But once the main door gets open, then it gets even colder in there. But the girls wouldn't even come out. It was too damn cold. So I fed them, went in and made sure the water was not frozen, and it wasn't. But I went ahead and changed it out and everything. It had a slight little crystallizing. It was starting to form. So I thought I'll go ahead and give them some fresh water. And I did. And it was too cold for me to clean the coop this morning. I'll do it tomorrow, but it was cold. And what was the other thing? And I gave them a couple of ears of fresh corn. They love fresh corn. So I gave them some fresh corn this morning to supplement their feed, and they enjoy it. And it gives them something to do. They love to, do that kind of stuff. So despite all this cold weather, they laid 12 eggs yesterday. So every hen laid an egg yesterday. And here by, where's my clock? It's already, by 9 o'clock local, they had already laid 7 eggs. So 7 of the 12 had already laid by 9 o'clock. So, and I'll check throughout the day to make sure I don't have any eggs sitting out there freezing. And interesting enough, last night around, 8 o'clock, I told Laura, I said, I'm just going to go outside because I don't have 12 eggs yet. I had 11. I said, I'm just going to be safe and go look one more time. So I went out there with a flashlight, and sure enough, I had one more egg that late in the evening. So anyway, it pays to keep the lights on. They keep laying, but you got to go keep checking eggs in the winter. So that's the skinny on the chickens. Well, not all about the chickens. I buy a chicken feed called Scratch and Peck, and I order it from Amazon. It's a real high quality feed. It's great feed. It doesn't have all them bad oils in it and shit. The chickens love it. It's expensive, but they love it. And I go through a lot of it, or the girls go through a lot of it. So, and I'm on an auto order subscription type thing. Hold on, I got to yawn. Anyway, so I knew the winter storm was coming. So I checked and looked at my subscription, and I thought, ooh, I'm going to bump it up because it may not get here in time. I don't know how bad this ice storm is going to be. So I revised my order well ahead of the storm, because they were all predicting it was going to come. And I went ahead and bumped my order up and said, hey, I need you to deliver it sooner. So I did that, and it said it would be delivered on, I think I bumped it up on like the 18th or something like that, or the 17th. Maybe it was the 17th. But anyway, so I got a confirmation, hey, we got your order, and we're going to, move it up, and you'll get it no later than the 22nd of January. I thought, okay, that's cool. The storm won't be here by then. So I do so. And, on the 20th, I get a tracking, and on the 21st, I get a tracking. And then on the 22nd, last Thursday, on the 22nd, I get an email. Your package has been delivered. I thought, ooh. Now, let me back up. The previous delivery, I got an email, says your package was delivered. And UPS delivers it. Amazon don't. But I got a notice that it had been delivered, and I'm like, well, hell, it ain't here. So then my neighbor, Carter and Marty, they shoot me a text and says, hey, you've got packages on our front doorstep. So I went to my next door neighbor's house, and sure enough, my chicken feed was laying on their front steps. So I said, oh, I'm so sorry, and blah, 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 and I got it. And so I gave Amazon feedback, and I said, hey, FYI, this got delivered at the wrong house, but I got it. I'll be on it again. Oh, man, sorry. So this time, on the 22nd, last Thursday, I get the email. It's been delivered. So I shot Laura a note, and I said, hey, is the chicken feed on the front doorsteps? She said, no. I said, is it on the ground out in front of the garage? No. I said, have you seen any chicken feed? She goes, no. I said, okay. So I wait till the 23rd, still got nothing. I sent him a note, and I said, hey, it's not here. And we go back and forth with that freaking chatbot crap, which is useless, absolutely useless. And I ended up having to send a message to them and saying, hey, just want to let you know, I did not get the package. It's not here. Now, by then, I've already gone to my neighbor's house again and looked on their front door steps. It wasn't there. I went to the neighbor who lives across the street. It ain't there. I went some neighbors down the road, and we're in the country. So I go down these country roads, and I'm going on back in here winding and looking. And I thought, well, some of these characters look pretty shady. Maybe if they got all this free chicken feed, they ain't going to say nothing no way. But anyway, I didn't see it anywhere. So then I finally had to call them, and I called them on, I think it was Monday. Anyway, I forget what day it was, but I called them, and I'm talking to the Amazon folks, and I say, hey, I just want to let you know, man, it ain't here. It ain't here. So they start the refund process, and they'll let the folks know, so they'll immediately ship another thing. And I thought, well, I'm telling you, the damn storm's coming, and I'm going to run out of chicken feed. So I had to go to Tractor Supply to buy the crap I don't like. And I went and bought, a bag, and I thought, okay, I'll mix in what little bit I got left, and I'll blend it, and I'll feed the chickens. And I do this. So Sunday now, the storms didn't come. So Sunday, Laura's looking at her phone, and she said, I had a package that was delivered also on Thursday, the 22nd. I said, really? She goes, yeah. She said, and I got a photo. You didn't get a photo? I said, no, I ain't got no damn photo. She goes, well, Amazon usually takes a picture. I said, well, okay, but I'm just telling you, I just got a notice that says it was delivered. I don't have a photo. And I have gotten those photos before. So Laura says, well, look at this photo. So she shows me a picture of her package that was delivered, and it's sitting on my damn 2 big boxes of chicken feed. And she goes, look. I said, well, that was the 22nd? She goes, yeah. I go, where the hell is your package? She goes, well, Jerry, look at the picture. So I'm looking at the picture and I'm like, hell, that's the inside of my shed. Y'all believe that? So the driver, he's a nice guy. I know him. And I guess Thursday morning it was slightly raining. So, and these boxes aren't very light. I think each box weighs 50 pounds of chicken feed. So rather than him get out of the truck, walk up the walkway, go up the steps, and put it on the front porch covered, he just pulled up on what used to be our RB pad and then went over there and opened my shed and put him in the shed. And I had no idea that feed was in our shed. So he'd been in there for like 3 or 4 days, including Laura's package. And she got a picture. And I don't know. I don't get it all, but I did the right thing. I'm not a thief. So I emailed one of the emails I got saying your refund has been started, blah, blah, blah. Here's your number, blah, blah, blah. I emailed them right away and said, hey, just FYI, we located the packages. The delivery driver had put them in the shed. It's okay. I don't need the refund. Love you, Jerry. And it comes back, you can't reply to this email. So then I go to the chat thing, and I'm trying to have a conversation with a chat bot, and I'm trying to say, y'all started a return. You need to cancel it because I found the packages, and the chat bot thing couldn't figure it out. So I did my part. I did due diligence, and I did my part. And I haven't even checked to see if I got a refund. And I don't know if there's more feed coming. I don't know. It's not worth it. So I did my part, and I'm done with it. So anyway, that's all I got to say about that. So, and then I'm going to talk about this. I used to keep bees, and I keep all my. I'm a bookkeeper. I'm real. I don't use that word anal because I don't like saying that. I'm really focused and have a great deal of attention to detail when it comes to records. And my CPA will tell you this. So I'm trying to find out where the cord is. So I keep very good records. They're not perfect, but I keep really good records, and I make the effort to do so. So because if I'm making, when I had the bees, I was making honey, I was jarring honey, I was selling honey, and so it's a business, and it's called homesteading farm, small farm business. So I keep all my records, and I don't exaggerate or inflate stuff. I just keep records. And every year of me making honey, it was fun. It was a great hobby. I loved it. But you don't make no damn money. There ain't no money to be made doing it at the scale I was doing it. Granted, I guess the money I make, which I don't really realize it, is I don't buy honey. So and I sell honey. So I was selling honey. I'm out now. I mean, I got my stash, but I got a stash that will last me probably about another 5-6 years. So, but anyway, so I got out of the bee business. So now I'm in the chicken business, and I'm got eggs, and I'm selling eggs, locally. And since I started building the chicken coop when I bought the chickens, and I bought these little old chickens in March of 2025, and that's when this venture started. I kept impeccable records. And of course, today, if you buy something at, Amazon, Walmart, Tractor Supply, Lowe's, Home Depot, Amazon, it doesn't matter. You can pull all these receipts down, and it's easy to keep records today. It's really easy because they keep all the records for you. You just go get them and consolidate them and put them in a spreadsheet, which I do. So I started doing that yesterday and this weekend, or last weekend. And so far, I have sold about $700 worth of eggs, and I keep a record. It's cash. I report it. I know. Maybe it's the Eleanor Daniels in me, but I do it. But I also have what it cost me to get into this venture. And I shot my buddy Bill Amos, my CPA, a note, and I said, I shouldn't have done this. I got it right here. So far, in 2025, this chicken business of raising chickens to raise eggs, and granted, we don't buy eggs anymore either. Y'all, This is, and granted, this is, I guess Bill Amos was telling me about, he would tell me about depreciation and stuff, but, this is from ground zero. This is buying everything, including the little chickens, every feeder, everything to start the brooder, the heaters, the wire, the cages, the waterers, the medicines, everything. With the exception, I don't do a very job at this, but I don't have in my files, I don't have me, running to the store every time, because you can claim mileage and 70 cents a mile for 2025. So I didn't do that. I mean, that's splitting hairs, and I don't, if I ever get audited, I guess they'll say, well, you could have done this. Okay. But if I get audited, like Dan Bongino says, I got the receipts. If you want to dig through them, you can. I have spent, and I don't say this with any sense of pride, y'all, I have spent in excess of $7,123. I shouldn't even looked at it. That made me sick. Right there, 7,000 some odd dollars for freaking chickens. So, for eggs. So when people say, oh my gosh, Jerry, I'm like, well, first of all, your ass ain't out there every 2 or 3 days cleaning the coop, changing all the waters and all that stuff. And I am. And anyway, all right. So here's the, I'm already at 16 minutes, and I'm going to try to keep this short. And this has really pressed my memory, and I've forgotten I didn't realize how much I had forgotten. And I guess I could have done a deeper dive into it, but this is for Kristi Dunn. I'm doing this for Kristi. Kristi asked me several weeks ago, she goes, Jerry, I wish you would do an episode on how you met your wife. So I'm going to do this. So those who may not know is that Laura is not my first wife. I was previously married. I made a huge mistake when I was a young man. I was 19 years old. Huge mistake. Massive mistake. I was young, dumb, and didn't have a clue. And didn't listen to anybody. But there wasn't a lot of people telling me, hey, you ought not do this. So I wish my mom and daddy would have taken me and locked me in a room and said, we need to talk. But they didn't even try to talk me out of it. I wish they would have. I don't know if I would have listened. I don't know. But they didn't give it a shot. But I enlisted in the Navy in 1980. So let me tell you about my bride. Let me get comfortable here. Tell you about my bride. So Laura and I married in August of 1987. That's when we got married. August the 8th. And I always remember that because my first anniversary, Al Reeder is the guy who goes, it's your anniversary. Because Al was my best man at my wedding. Al said, it's 8/8/88. He said, you know how long it's going to take before that to happen again? I said, I probably won't be alive. But on 8/8/88 was my first wedding anniversary. So I'll never forget Al Reeder bringing that up. And Al Reeder had just gotten out of the Navy and was at our house doing his transition of getting out of the Navy when Laura's water broke and she went into labor with Dwayne. And that was in June of 1990 is when Al got out of the Navy or thereabouts. But anyway, so I enlisted in the Navy August the 27th, 1980. So everybody knows I left Taylor County at that time, and that's when I left and whatnot, and I went to the recruiting the APHIS, whatever the processing station up in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was scared. I was excited, but I was scared. So I go up there on August the 27th, 1980, and do my final enlistment. I had already enlisted under the delayed entry program. That was in January of 1980. So here it is, August of 1980, and I'm getting ready to ship out. I get on the bus in Butler, Georgia, and y'all have heard that story about Mama gave me a letter. Daddy gave me some advice, and Billy Edwards took a picture of me getting on the bus, and I leave. And I chip off and I go to the Navy. That was August 27th. Now remember that. It was August 27th, 1980. So get out of boot camp around October, ship off to Millington, Tennessee, and then it rolls into 1981. And then I think it was like maybe, I forget what it was, February or March of 81. I go to Virginia Beach. I met my first squadron, and I did something really stupid. I was lonely. I was lonely. I was lonely, and I shouldn't have done it, but I proposed to a girl that I had met on a beach in Panama City, and she's a very nice person. Her name's Teresa, and she lived in Longview, Texas, and she's still alive today, mother, grandmother, and all that kind of stuff. But I shouldn't have done that, but I proposed to her. She accepted, and we got married. And Todd, Bill, and Larry, and even Everett Bird, with Mom and Daddy, my brother, they all came to Texas, and it was, man, it's a chapter of my life I am not proud of. I'm ashamed of it. I'm ashamed of it because how incredibly immature and stupid I was, and it cost a lot of people a lot of money and heart pain and heartbreak or heart pain, whatever the word is. But anyway, I shouldn't have done it. And yeah, we were young. I can't say anything. I can just say me. I made a terrible mistake. So within 6 months, I realized this ain't good. And I realized that I had no business doing that. Praise God the Father, we didn't have any children. That's the biggest blessing of all of this. And it didn't last a year, and it started going downhill. And again, I was a knucklehead. I said some things I shouldn't have said. I said some things I'm sorry for. I was a kid, man, and I had no business getting married, no business whatsoever. So, and the military life was no place for Teresa. She gave it a shot too, but anyway. So it was going downhill after that, and it shortly thereafter. So, and now what's this got to do with me meeting my lovely bride that I've been married to going on 39 years? Well, because I met my wife. Didn't know her. I just met her and danced with her a couple of times. But I was still legally married when I met her. I didn't have an affair. I didn't do any of that stuff. I met a lot of girls, but I met my wife and danced with her 2 times when I was still married. All right. And then that was it. I just got her first name. That was all I got. But I mean, again, I danced with other girls and got their first name. And then we were legally separated and all that stuff, and I had gone back down to Key West, Florida, and I met my wife again 6 months later. I met her again. And I reminded her that I had met her 6 months ago. She didn't remember it. She's like, "Oh, I don't remember that." And I said, "Well, I did. I danced with you right here at the same club." And anyway, and that was the night I had gotten into a big fight, and it all started about her. Some dude had a problem with me dancing with her, but I didn't know her. But that's how this fight started. I got my ass beat and spent Easter Sunday in a hospital with a broke nose and busted teeth and broke hand, and it was bad, y'all. So I meet her again 6 months later, and we just, all we did was talk, and that's when I really fell in love with her. And we just talked. We talked till the sun come up the next morning, and so that's how it started. And we dated. And I transferred shortly thereafter that. I got out of the squad. I transferred from that squadron. I went to Combat Naval Aircrew Candidate School in Pensacola. That was in '83. And Laura and I dated off and on, long distance. Now, and Laura, let me back up. Laura was in the U.S. Navy. So, and when I met her the second time, we got to talking, and the irony was overwhelming as we put things together as to how many times our path has truly crossed. So, remember I told you I enlisted in the Navy on August the 27th, 1980. Unbeknownst to me, on the very same day that Jerry Daniels is standing in the military Armed Forces entry station in Atlanta, Georgia, raising my right hand, taking the oath to enlist in the Navy, my lovely bride, Miss Laura, was doing the exact same thing, the exact same day in Portland, Maine. Imagine that. When I was getting on the bus to go to Atlanta, Georgia, Laura was getting on a bus in Portland, Maine, going to the airport to fly to Orlando, Florida. Yep. What are the odds of that? And, our conversation that night, we discovered that we were sitting in the same area at the Orlando airport that evening, which rolled into that night. When the recruits show up to boot camp, they had to, I don't know what they do today. They had to do it back then on purpose because they let the whole day's collection of these new recruits who are flying in from all over the country. And they let them just like mass into this mob of young knuckleheads in the airport. And they have the airport people there to kind of corral them into a corner, keep them at bay till the bus comes and gets you. Laura and I were in that same crowd, and she remembers it because I had long hair back then, but I got in trouble because I was messing around in a wheelchair at the airport. And that's the only thing she remembers is the guy with the long hair getting in trouble, and I was playing around in a wheelchair. She remembers that, but she don't remember it was me per se. We get on the same damn bus, and we go to boot camp together, and our paths really don't fully cross. But we're on, we go. And we PT on the same grinder. It's called the grinder field. But all the male companies and all the female companies, there was 2 female companies in the same time as we were. I was 210, she was in 135. And my company commander would purposely take us out there and put us in the parade field on the grinder so we could PT, and he would always put us behind the girls so when they did the push-ups, we get to look at their asses. And he would do that on purpose. And his last name was Daniels, imagine that. But Laura was in that mix. We graduated on the same parade field the same day. My mom and daddy came down, and her mom and daddy and her grandmom and granddaddy came down to Orlando, Florida. And our parents were there the same day in October of 1980. And imagine, what's the irony of that? And then we meet, whatever, a year and a half, 2 years later. And then we meet again 6 months after that. And then we just kind of date off and on and try to nurture a long-distance relationship of her being in the Navy in Key West and me being a fighter squadron in Oceana, Virginia. Then I get into combat aircrew school, and then I go to all these schools in Jacksonville, Florida, and I'm still trying to get down there and whatnot. I graduated, I think it was in October. I think it was October of 83. I think it was October of 83. I graduated Naval Aircrew Candidate School in Pensacola, Florida. And that was the morning that we had, final room inspection, dress white inspection. We passed and review. We did the graduation. We got our orders and we left. So we got up like at 3 or 4 o'clock that morning. And we're all graduated and done by noon. We check out, and I get in my damn Nissan truck that ain't got no damn air conditioner. And I drive from Pensacola, Florida, all the way across the Panhandle, get into the mainland of Florida, and I go south. And I drive to go see Laura in Key West, Florida. And y'all, I couldn't make it. I was falling asleep. Man, I was falling asleep. Got down around Miami, somewhere around Miami, and I couldn't keep my eyes open no more. And I was on the interstate. I pulled over on the side of the interstate, and it was not well populated. And I cracked the windows of my truck, and I just kind of leaned over and went to sleep. And I woke up. I don't know how long I laid there, but I woke up. It was hot. Golly, Pete. It was October. It was in the very first part of October, but it was hot. Man, it was hot. I was dripping with sweat. The inside of the windows was all covered with, water and condensation and stuff. Y'all, there must have been 1 million if there was one mosquito in that truck. I was covered in frickin' mosquitoes. Thank gosh I didn't get no disease. I rolled down the windows and took off. And I went to see Laura because I was so in love and infatuated. And I went to see her. And I rented a hotel room, and we had a good time. So anyway, I've digressed. So we dated off and on, and I'm in a squadron in Brunswick, Maine, and that's where she and we had broke up and got together and broke up and got together, and we were still young and we were trying to figure it out and whatnot. I knew I loved her. I knew that. And then any girl I ever dated when we weren't dating, I just always measured them up to her. Nobody compared to Laura. Nobody. And I had not a lot, but I had more than one girl that when I was stationed in Brunswick, Maine, and they were nice girls, but they would, after a month or two, the word "I love you" come out. And I'm like, oh gosh, please don't say that. One girl had a little baby girl. She was a nice girl, but she's like, "I love you." I'm like, man, you don't want to say that. And I dated this other girl, and she had a little boy. "I love you." I'm like, no, that ain't happening. I dated another girl. God rest her soul. She's dead. She's dead now. She drank a lot, man. And same thing. "I love you." You're the perfect meaningless relationship, that kind of crap. But Laura and I would get back together, and then I'm like, man, I hope this is hope that we can get it going on. And then, anyway, I'd do something stupid and break up. She'd do something and break up, and whatnot. So that goes on, y'all. That happens from 1984 all the way up to 1987. That on off crap. And I had talked to her mom and dad. I'd never met them, but I had talked to them on the phone. And I'm living in Brunswick, Maine. And I'm living in the barracks in Brunswick, Maine. And this is 1984. Laura is still active duty down in Key West, Florida. I'm living in Brunswick, Maine in the barracks. And I have never met her parents, but they told me, they said, "Oh, if you're ever in town, call us, look us up." So, and I'm trying to patch things up with Laura. And if I told this story before and it changes, it's because that's what stories do. Especially as we get older. The fish always gets bigger in the fish stores, right? But anyway, so it was a day I was in the barracks, and this is back before cell phones and computers and all that crap. So I got a paper atlas and I'm looking at it, and it was a day, and I'm like, you know what? South Berwick, Maine is not very far from Brunswick, Maine. It's like just a couple hours drive. So I had her phone number to her mom and daddy's house, and Laura's in Key West, Florida. I didn't say nothing to her. I was getting my damn Toyota pickup, and I drive my happy ass down to South Berwick, Maine, and I go to a payphone phone booth outside a gas station near a donut shop in South Berwick, Maine, and I call that number. And Laura's mama answered the phone. And I introduced myself. I said, "Yeah, hello." I said, "This is Jerry Daniels." She said, "Who?" I said, "Jerry Daniels." And I'm just paraphrasing. So I could hear her cover up the phone and go, "Jerry Daniels on the phone." So she's like, "Who?" I said, "Jerry Daniels. Laura and I have dated off and on." I said, "But, I'm in the Navy." I said, I'm stationed in Brunswick, Maine, and you said to call you if ever I was in South Berwick. She said, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm in South Berwick." And I could hear her cover up the phone again. She was mumbling. And then she goes, "Where?" And I'm describing this gas station near this donut shop. And she said, "Well, sit tight. I'll come get you." So I stayed right there. And sure enough, Laura's mom shows up in this little bitty tiny white car with this other Italian dude. And it's Laura's godfather. Yep, it's her godfather who was visiting Laura's mom and dad. And she called her, his name was Tom, and he is Sicilian. So he's there, and they come up, and we chat briefly, and then she goes, "Well, follow us, and we'll go to their house." And a lot has changed since, and this was 1984. So a lot has changed since then. And they're way out in the country. And I followed them out in the country, and I thought, golly, these people live out in the sticks, man. And we go to their house, and I meet her dad for the first time, but also her grandmama and granddaddy, who I love dearly, Frankie and Olga Nardelli, the true 100% Italianos from Brockton, Mass. They're there. And it's a beautiful day. I think it's a Sunday. And we just sit outside on the back patio. We drink wine. We eat cheese and olives. And then, and Laura's mama and her grandmama make a big thing of spaghetti. And man, we just have the grand old time. And then Laura's granddaddy he wanted me to sit next to him when we ate. And Frankie was a fine man, let me tell you. Fine man. And he made me sit next to him. And then out of the blue, he just says, in that heavy Italian accent, "So, you love my granddaughter?" I'm like, "Yes, sir, I do." He says, "Good. I like you." I said, "Well, okay." And then her dad, he at one point says, "I need to go feed the dogs." And we have to get on a bicycle to ride down this dirt road to go feed these dogs. And he says, "You've really hurt Laura," because we broke up several times. He said, "You really hurt Laura, and you're going to have to really work hard to fix this." I said, "Yeah, I know." So anyway, I go back to the barracks, and I live in the barracks, and Laura's got the phone number to the barracks. She has that phone number. She's got it. And I'm in my barracks room that evening, and this is the way it used to work. Now, today it would be nothing like this. But if you lived in a barracks, there was a payphone in the hall. It rang until somebody went and answered it. And if you were ever calling somebody in the barracks, you just let it ring forever. Finally, somebody would pick it up and say, "Hey, can you go down to room 219 and get Jerry and see if he's there?" And we always kept a notepad with papers and stuff, and they would fold pieces of paper and they'd stick them in your door. So-and-so called, and whatever. You take a message. But I'm in my room, and somebody's beating on the door and says, "Hey, Jerry, you in there?" I go, "Yeah." And they go, "You got a phone call, man." So I get up and I go down the hall to the payphone, and it's Laura. Man, she lit into me and chewed my ass. And I can't quote her, but she's like, "You had the audacity to go see my mom and daddy without my knowledge, and you ate with my grandmama and granddaddy and my godfather, and I wasn't there. You met them for the first time, and I wasn't there." I mean, she called me a snake, conniving, manipulating. I said, "Yeah, pretty much true. All those things are. I'm trying to get you back. And I figure if I can get in with your parents, I can get back with you." So that was in 1984. So it took 3 more years to get this thing worked out. So fast forwarding it, I've come back from a Sigonella deployment. I go back overseas. I live in Rota, Spain and Portugal. I do that deployment. I come back, and then Laura gets out of the Navy. So she gets out of the Navy, and she moves back home with her mom and daddy in the latter part of 85. And now she's in Maine. She's out of the Navy. She's not a sailor anymore. And I'm still trying to patch it up. And it's looking pretty good. And one time she calls me. One time she called me and asked me if I want to come down and spend the weekend with her at her mom and daddy's, and we'd go out, to a club and whatnot. And we do, and we go to a club and whatnot, and nothing happens. And I mean, there's nothing, intimate. And I'm just trying to fix it. And then one time we went and stayed with her grandmama and granddaddy in Brockton, Massachusetts. And they had a little bitty tiny house, and they only had 2 bedrooms, and that was it. And Olga and Frankie, of course, I couldn't sleep with Laura, but Olga and Frankie made me sleep on a pallet. That's what they used to call them back then. We're going to make you a pallet, which meant we're going to lay 2 blankets on the floor and you're going to sleep on them. I laid on a freaking hard-ass floor outside Frankie and Olga's bedroom so they would hear me if I got up. But I laid outside their bedroom. Their bedroom door was open. I could hear him snoring. I laid on the floor in a hallway outside that door. That's where I slept that night. It was hard and it was cold because we'd been snow skiing. But we had gone skiing another time, and something happened, and I wanted to talk about it the next morning, and she didn't want to talk, and we got in an argument. I remember throwing my damn skis out the front door in the snow, and I got my truck and I left and acted like an ass. And then there was another time she called me out of the blue, and this was like 85 or 86. It may have been 86, I think it was. She called me, and she was dating guys, and I was dating girls. She called me and asked me if I want to go skiing with her again. I said, well, yeah, I'd love to go skiing with you. Thinking, man, I got another chance to fix this. So she says, well, we can go at this place. It's a chalet and blah, 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 blah. She goes, and, if anything happens, I don't want you to get the wrong idea. And I thought, well, what do you mean if anything happens? She goes, well, if we have, sex, I don't want you to get the wrong idea. I said, well, then I'm not going. I said, because we're going to have sex. I'm going to get an idea. And she's like, what? And I said, well, I ain't going to go. You're telling me? She goes, well, I just want us to go as friends. I said, well, I don't want to go as your damn friend. I said, Dad, I ain't going. So I didn't go. I didn't go. So anyway, so still fast forwarding. So now it's like, it's the latter part of 86. And I'm getting ready to transfer, and our squadron's getting ready to deploy, and we're going to Keflavik, Iceland. And I'm on the phone with Laura, and I forget what month it was, but it was in the latter part of 86. And I'm still trying to patch this thing up, man. And it ain't going well. And my arrogance, it got the best of me, and I told her on the phone, I said, you know what? I said, you can keep dating and do what you want to do. I said, I can keep dating and do what I do too. I said, but I'm just going to tell you something. You won't find any man who loves you as much as I do. I said, I love you. I said, but, until you figure that out, I said, you can keep doing what you're doing. I said, but I'm just letting you know. And the phone call abruptly ended, and I left. And shortly thereafter, I was gone. And I went to Keflavik, Iceland. And I'll never forget, and I'm already at 42 minutes. But anyway, long story short was, she wrote me a letter, told me, oh my gosh, I realize I do love you. And I treacherous through a snowstorm to get to a payphone. And I spent like $60 being on the phone for like 10 minutes. And I called her from a Navy Lodge in Keflavik, Iceland. And I told her I got the letter and I loved her. And she told me she loved me, and she realized now that I'm the one. I said, great, I'm transferring in March of 87, and I'll come home and I'll come see you. And I did. And boom, got home. And that was the great thaw. March of 87 was the great thaw from the previous winter, and there was massive flooding all throughout New England. And she was house sitting for these people that were out of town. I went and stayed with her at the house. The whole entire freaking basement flooded. I mean, I was in a basement trying to get a pump to work. I was waist deep in water, and there was electrical appliances and everything down there, and I'm trying to figure out how to get this damn pump to start pumping water out of the basement. It was that deep. The washing machine, the dryer was, you could only see half of the washer, half the dryer. The furnace was underwater. So one running to get electrocuted. And they had a blind dog that shit all over the floor and would walk in it because he was blind. And then I proposed to Laura that time, and then we got married in August the 8th, 1987, and we get married at a chapel at an Air Force base, Pease Air Force Base, by a colonel named Bradley B. Burns, and the rest is history. So, Kristi, that's for you, girl. I'm sorry it went so long, but that's how I met my bride. God was instrumental in everything, and to know that we joined the Navy the same day. Oh, I didn't tell you this. Our birthdays are less than 24 hours apart. I was born on this day, and when less than 24 hours, she was born the very next day. So our birthdays are on a calendar. They're one day apart. Our birth times are less than 24 hours. And Laura gave birth to our daughter in October of 1994 in the same hospital, in the same delivery room that her mama gave birth to her sister in the 60s. Because her mama even said, it's the same ugly-ass green tiles are on the wall. It was at Fort Belvoir Army Hospital. So, all right, the rest is all history. I've gone way too long. Kristi, this was for you, darling. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for prompting me to talk about it. I hope y'all got something out of it. I don't know. Anyway, and the rest is history. All right, that's it, folks. Y'all stay warm. God bless you. God bless this great country. I hope the Lord just really works and does miracles and all that crap in Minnesota, because something needs to be done. And God is great, and I hope He's providence in all this mess. Mike Coker, let's go to work, buddy. Bicycle.